Hello, welcome to Let's Talk. My name is Prince Malajamo Alex. On Let's Talk, we take on topical issues that actually help individuals to develop a coping mechanism. On today's topic, we are going to be looking at how to overcome childhood trauma, and I have a very wonderful, vast person to discuss this issue with today. He is a professor of clinical psychology with Department of Psychology, Ambrose Allen University. He's Professor H.O.A. Mode. Prof, you're welcome to the program. Good to have you and good to see you.
Good to be on your program, Alex. Thank you.
So let's start the conversation right away. I'm going to be asking you two questions in one. One is what is childhood trauma? And what are the possible events or activities that could lead to childhood trauma?
A childhood trauma is any event that evokes fear, which is common with violence or have a theme of violence, as well as dangerous and life-threatening situation. Most often, childhood trauma is also referred to as child adverse experience or adverse children experience, ACEs. Most often, when you look at what causes trauma, you look at things that are directly pertaining to the child, that impinge directly on the child, and those which the child observes. And these are what I call the direct and the indirect causes of childhood trauma. Now let's take the direct causes which impinge directly on the child. The very first thing is the one which most of us know, which we call the physical and sexual abuse. Of course, these incidents most often will cause a real problem or have an effect traumatically on the child. We also have what we call the one-time event like car accident, falling down the staircase, being injured, or something along the line that is accidental in nature. This could also cause trauma to the child. We have what we call the natural disasters. Luckily for us in this part of the world, especially in Nigeria, we don't have all the natural disasters that happen outside the shore of Nigeria. But mostly, particularly, what is common to us that most of us are aware and known is the flooding. The case of even recently, when there was a torrential rain just a few days back, we were told that a body was floating after being carried by the flood from up Benin City and to the river side. Of course, these are bound to cause trauma for a child. We also have what we call the loss of the loved ones. Loss of loved ones naturally cause trauma. And we know that there are periods of grieving. Some of these children are not able to grieve and stop when they are supposed to stop. But when it persists beyond when it's supposed to stop, it becomes a trauma which begins to impinge on their everyday functioning. Again, we have what we call major medical incidents that may happen to either them or their loved ones that could cause trauma. Added to that, we have the one we call the ongoing stress. For me, this is the most dangerous, especially in Nigeria here. The most common, what actually would cause childhood trauma. We call it the ongoing stress, such as living in a dangerous environment where weapons are brandished freely on a daily basis, where individuals begin to take it upon themselves to be violent just because they want to either defend what is not defendable or to claim what does not belong to them. Then we have children normally going to school who faces bullying. When children are bullied, or a particular child is bullied, because it may not happen to every one of them, this can also cause traumatic event. So these are the major causes. But again, That is a direct. Then we have the indirect. The direct is the one that impinges directly on the child. The indirect is what the child observed that happened to others, but not directly happening to him or her. And such could include the death or major health concern of a loved one. This can cause a traumatic effect. Violent media, which of course we see on a daily basis. If your child happens to have opportunity to lay hands on your phone or whatever it is, they are bound to see a whole lot of violent interpretations of the daily living. Killings, murdering, war, and cause trauma to the child. Again, a child that lives within a community that is very violent, until recently, when the land issue was relatively settled by the present governor of Edo State and the Oba of Benin by saying all those youth and the rest are to be put in shame. On a daily basis, people who are developers, who tell their children to cite, actually come across such violence. They see people being maimed, all in the process of taking lands and the rest. All these are what are likely to cause trauma to a child.
Okay, sir. Now, you have highlighted the activities and the possible events that could lead to childhood trauma. So now let's flip it back to the adulthood right now. Are there signs for maybe behavior particular to somebody who have suffered from this, or have this traumatic experience? Are there any particular behaviors you can pinpoint to say, oh, when you find yourself behaving this way, there's likelihood that it's as a result of childhood trauma?
Yes. There are a lot of signs that we think now we are taking it out of the childhood and we are bringing it to situation on the after effects in the adult life. And that's why we said it's life-threatening. Trauma actually spans a long time. And if not treated, if not handled, will live with that individual as long as he lives in life. One, the issue of anger, excessive anger, inability of the individual to relate peacefully with individual is one. Anger, impulsive behavior, and the individual about nothing but pick the theme of dying and death. In other words, regurgitating the experience and wishing that he wished to die. In other words, what we call the suicide ideations. When you begin to see these in an adult, definitely know that that individual suffered a traumatic experience as a child, which have not. Then we look at the mental state aspect of it. Though I've mentioned one or two of it, we begin to see the individual being depressed, being anxious, and not interested in things ordinarily that he used to be interested in, what we call anhedonia. When you begin to see individuals like this, even their feeding pattern become a little bit problematic. They find it difficult to eat, to sleep very well. These are signs that this individual, though these are co-signs with other ailments, but an individual who have gone through trauma that has led to what we call the PTSD, replaying, repeating, and hypervigilant. The individual becomes so hypervigilant. All of these are factors which is pointing to the fact that this adult probably would have had a very traumatic childhood experience.
Wow, interesting. So, okay, now let's go back to, because actually what we want to do is to perfect solution Our viewers are there right now, are watching us, and they want to know, many of them are beginning to peek into what actually, how they have been behaving, and try to relate with what we are discussing right now. But how can the process of overcoming that childhood trauma be? What are the processes for somebody who have experienced or who have this, how will I put it, this childhood trauma? How will a person overcome it? What are the processes? What are the steps in overcoming childhood trauma?
Okay. Okay. There are several and many processes to follow in overcoming the childhood trauma. First is to identify, which we have in a short or summary, we have highlighted some of the points, but in helping an individual cope with the traumatic event. Now, the way you are situating it for the area that he or she has some problems associated with being traumatic. Yes, one, the individual needs to, first of all, manage the anger issue. And that individual alone cannot manage that anger issue. There must be what we call social support. That social support means or presupposes that individuals, caregivers, family members, and in this case, we're talking about an adult, it could be the father, the mother, it could be the wife, it could be the husband, it could be the children, it could be the friends, or even colleagues within the office who have noticed some of these signs that have been exhibited with the individual should come and begin to assist this by one, helping the individual to relieve, talk about that experience. A lot of them don't talk about it. A lot of them bottle up the experience. Let them relieve, help them to relieve that experience by talking about it freely. And two, when they talk about it freely, help them to realize, to see that whatever they are going through or whatever trauma they may have passed through or experienced over the years is not as a result of their fault. Help them to inculcate that, because most of them blame themselves for life, that what happened is as a result of their fault. And therefore, to be able to assist them, help them, counsel them, let them know that what they are going through is not their fault. Thirdly, they are bound to ask you questions. Answer them truthfully and honestly. Do not try to play politics or be political or be economical with your answer. A should be A, B should be B, this is that. And help them again to get involved actively in daily activities. Not allow them to sit idly, because they will think that is when the suicide ideation will come in. Get them involved in activities that are very, very useful. And such individuals on their own should again look for individuals or people or colleagues or friends that are active in terms of talking, in terms of thinking, in terms of helping them to go through this a problem they are having. And again, help them. Adults at that stage should be able to encourage to have a decent sleep exercise. They should learn to sleep well and regularly, have enough sleep. They should have good diet. And of course, if I would say, I'll say individuals should avoid inequality or ramification, the use of substance such as alcohol, cigarettes, and so on and so forth. They should avoid drug abuse. If this few eventually is not assisting or helping in the needed direction, then that is when there is need to call in a professional. Of course, we have a whole lot of psychologists who are well trained and grounded in trauma aspects. We have the traumatic cognitive behavioral therapy. We have the eye movement design. Of course, these are therapies. I don't want to go into those ones. Those are special to whoever the professional you are referring that individual to, who will not take and drill this individual through whatever possible therapeutic procedure he or she has chosen to take them through. When you do this, of course, this individual will definitely come out of it. It is a long time process, and also it will take a long time therapeutic session to actually get them out of their problem.
Wow. Okay, before I will let you go, Prof, so what would be your general advice for anyone out there who have this experience, or some of them live in denial, some of them don't want, like you have stated earlier, so they don't want to talk about it, they just bottle it up. So what is your general advice to them as they listen to you right now?
First of all, the first thing an individual should do is to have that self-confidence and that self-trust in his or herself. And secondly, once you have that trust, you will be able to relate with other persons around you. There is what we call self-disclosure. In one of our work, we discovered that Nigerians are not used to self-disclosures. Yes, you use the word denial. That is certainly it. The very first instant, denial comes in at the very first instant. It is not happened to me. God forbid. God will never forbid. It has happened, and it will happen to you, and can happen to anybody. Once it has happened, learn to self-disclose. And that's why we say, look for individuals who are supportive to you. Those individuals who shares your concern. Those individuals who you can relate with. And if you feel that you cannot relate with any individual, look for professionals. These do not have your histories. These are not close to your families. They are not close to your friends. Whatever you say to them is bound to them. And as a result of that, they will help you to overgo those problems you have. The problem we have basically is that fact that people are not self-disclosing whatever ailment or problem they have in this country.
So, Prof, actually, I said that was a bit because something just came to my mind while we were talking, because I observed this personally. I discovered that this kind of people, they always get attracted to like their kind. They are trying to move away from a violent environment that actually caused the problem for them at the first place. But they move into another environment, particularly when they go into a relationship. They like a violent situation. They feel comfortable with it. So is it natural with them, or it is because of how they have been groomed that attract them to that kind of a relationship or that kind of environment?
It is not natural at all. What seems to be playing out in that scenario is that, you see, there is a word I used earlier on, hypervigilance. Individuals who have gone through trauma, they leave it at being hypervigilant, that there is a tendency that what happened before will happen again. And as a result of that, they begin to look for individuals that they feel are going to give them that umbrella of safety, individuals that can accommodate them. And such individual eventually becomes those individuals who also have problems and are very violent in nature. They are more comfortable because they feel that they are comfortable in the midst of this individual. Consciously or unconsciously, they do that. Don't forget that when it comes to issue of trauma, one of the major aspects, we didn't have time to talk about that, is the relationship aspects. Those who have gone through trauma always have problem with relationship. Their emotion is already dull. Their emotion is such that they do not find anything that will move them. They find it difficult to cry when they are supposed to cry. they find it difficult to exhibit a normal emotion or exhibits, and these are the post-traumatic problem that they have, which need to be dealt with. It is only when it is dealt with that they will move away from that angle or cycle that you have painted, that they are looking for like minds. They are not actually looking for like minds, but because they are running away from trouble, they are pushing themselves into trouble. That's the way I would summarize it.
Wow, Prof, thank you very, very much. I deeply appreciate you for this moment. You are always there whenever I call on you. I deeply appreciate you, sir. Hello, viewer. That's much we can take for today. You've listened to his analysis. And if you are the type who actually have experienced trauma at one level or the other, there is nothing wrong with you, but you have to come to terms with yourself that you need help. You have to open up yourself for help so that people can help you. My name is Prince Manu Jemu Alex. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.